Maybe it doesn't fiscally bring back dollars, but what it does do is it teaches us lessons and it creates a moment of joy. We can't just work our entire life. We have to have those joyful moments.
ROI, right? Return on investment. My money poured in, I get that. That makes sense to me. But if it costs you your well-being, if it costs you your mental health, if it costs you your marriage, I guarantee you there's no ROI that's worth it. And so for us, return on joy, there has to be a balance.
Welcome to the Our Family Invest podcast, where we explore what happens when family, purpose, and entrepreneurship align. I'm Mike, a former Maui firefighter who reached financial freedom in just 5 years through real estate investing.
And I'm Caroline, a Maui-based realtor here to educate, empower, and elevate my clients to make smart real estate moves, whether right here at home or through my nationwide network.
Together, we're chasing our full potential as individuals, as a couple, and as a family. We're here to build a life that matters. And each week we share the stories of couples who inspire us to love harder, dream bigger, and grow bolder. So join us and let's learn, share, and grow together. Today, we're excited to sit down with our friends AJ and Nichole Frandanisa, a couple proving every day that you don't have to choose between wealth and building a family. AJ is a loan officer, Nichole is a real estate agent, and together they're sophisticated investors who have taken on some wild projects. They downsized their home from 2,200 to just 800 square feet, even lived in their driveway with a newborn while finishing a live-in flip. And through it all, they've stayed true to their family motto, the Frandanisas do hard things. But their story goes beyond real estate. AJ recently earned his pilot's license, a lifelong dream he wouldn't have chased without Nichole's encouragement. And Nichole grew up in the theater, a gift that now shows up every time she speaks, leads, and inspires. Together, they're showing what it looks like to build not just a portfolio, but a purpose-driven family legacy. All right, you guys. Well, we are super excited to have you. But before we dive into all those fun things, I want to kind of get to know who each of you are at your core a little bit more. So I want to know, AJ, who is Nichole behind all the accolades, all the successes, all the things that she's done? And then Nichole, maybe you can flip the script and tell us about AJ.
I love it.
Man, yeah. I mean, first, she's my best friend. I think that goes without saying. She is the kindest person in the room always, and she's continually making me better. Who you get to see any day to day, up on stage or in the hallways, that's who she really is. She is, somebody who stays authentic to herself, which I really love, and somebody who really chooses to make every decision through a lens of faith. And that's always been encouraging to me. And makes it really easy to lead our home, as just a direct result of who she is. So if I had to sum it up, it's just, she is authentically Nichole. There is nobody like her.
That is so nice.
So
I feel
true.
like I paid you to say those nice things. And I love that question, Mike. Thanks for asking that question, because I know that's the heartbeat of your guys' podcast. I love it. Even in the logo behind you, the word family is bigger than anything else there. Okay, AJ behind the scenes, the AJ that I get to see, love, know, respect every single day. I cannot think about somebody who cares as deeply as AJ Frandanisa. I joke all the time, and it's not a joke, it's actually quite serious. I outkicked my coverage by 1,000%, and AJ just hasn't figured that out yet. I'm the luckiest gal around. So truly, he's really passionate about ensuring our family and what our legacy is, right? So that bleeds into everything we do when we pray together as a family each evening, all the way down to how he takes care of his clients and mortgage. And his dream and passion for our family to fortify our family in the form of our wealth and our finances has always been postured in what was discerned over his life years ago and prophesied over his life years ago, which is that he was going to be a funder of the kingdom. Mm-hmm. So money for us is the foundation to give it away. And his heart of generosity is unlike anybody else's. And I'm really, really grateful to get a front row seat to his leadership every single day. It's my greatest honor.
Wow. Was this scripted?
No, we just really like each other. Isn't that so fun? I feel really grateful for that.
We should just end it here because it's only going downhill now.
It's been great. Thanks for joining us today.
It's so good. Okay, so let's take it back. How did you two meet, and what was your first date like?
Okay, so we met while doing a ministry school. So we went to a version of ministry college that was hands-on internship at a church. So that was the first place we met, was we were both serving in this program. Fresh out of high school. I was really fresh out of high school. You were 1 year out of high school. So we were just babies. You guys, I'll have to show you a picture of
I
AJ.
stalked your Instagram page. I saw the pictures.
Yeah.
No
He
beard
was
on
like-
that guy.
No beard. Yeah. I used to take a 1 to my head, no hair on top. Yeah.
Yep, just baby AJ. So we met in that space. Dating was not allowed in that space, but that was okay because there was no chance we were dating straight out of the gates. I actually got in trouble for publicly making fun of AJ at one time. We were walking into chapel. He stubbed his foot on a chair. He grabbed his foot and went, curse word. He didn't actually say a curse word. He said curse word as the curse word. So we went, curse word. And I was like, how homeschooled are you, man? So I got to do 16 hours of community service, raking leaves to show that it was really important, that the way we honor each other and all of God's children was really important. That's the start of how we met, was this experience. And then fast forward a few years, we stayed in a similar friends group. I watched it as AJ actually had interest in other people. He'd be like, Nichole, help me hang out with so-and-so. I kind of want to get to know them more. And I just watched as he stewarded those opportunities with so much respect and kindness and awareness that one day I was like, man, he's kind of cute. I've never seen it before, but he's kind of cute. And I remember one of my roommates saying like, have you noticed AJ? Like he's growing up a little. And I remember saying out loud, AJ, like someday somebody's going to be so lucky to be his wife. And then like 9 months later, we were engaged to be married. Yeah. So you asked about our first date. Do you want to say anything about our first date?
Yeah. I mean, there's a fun story in there for sure. I mean, we started dating officially, if you will, December 5th, and that was 2011. She wanted me to go. She was on staff at the church, and she wanted me to go to the Christmas, what was it, like a banquet or whatever?
Yeah, Christmas party.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, but she was already taking a friend. And so she had convinced another friend to bring me. And we had been talking for a few months at that point. So I had asked her that night on top of the Space Needle at this, Christmas party, like, hey, I'd love to go out with you. Like, will you, be my girlfriend or whatever? I don't even remember the words I said. Hopefully it probably sounded a lot nicer than that. So they insert like really cool things like of how a guy has to girl
Absolutely.
out. It probably sounded just like that. And so then we ended up going snowboarding. And so we went up to Crystal Mountain here in Washington, went snowboarding, and both of us ended up getting hurt. So that was fun. I think we made it like 2 runs on the mountain. Like we went up, like she fell and hurt herself, and it turned out ended up cracking a rib. And then she was like, I'm just going to stay in the, down here, and I'm just gonna have a hot chocolate. I'll catch up with you like on the next run. So like, okay, great. So the next run I go up and I end up giving myself a concussion. So we just packed it up. So that was our first date, right? That was our first date. Technically, that was technically our first date. And I think our second date went a lot better because we went to, what's it called? The play?
Scrooge.
We went to Scrooge the musical at one of the churches here, and we went and got Thai food. And that one went a lot better. Nobody got hurt.
Nice.
Something more stationary. I like it.
Yeah.
There you go.
We chose, exactly.
So AJ, I mean, you were talking to Nichole's friends. What made you suddenly turn the tables and fall in love with Nichole?
Oh man, we'd been friends for a long time. She always, she jokes about how she made fun of me a lot. It never like really bothered me. And so we had been friends for a long time. I think it was just one of those kind of beautiful things where it was like kind of a light switch, moment where it was like, oh, maybe I could see myself with her as well. And obviously kind of happened the same for her. And those 2 moments just happened to align at the correct time to where both of us kind of became interested in each other. I think it was probably my birthday was kind of when, at least for myself, but I want to say for you too, it was my birthday, the year we started dating. So that was like 6 months before I officially started dating. It was kind of like that moment where I was like, oh, like I might kind of like her a little bit. And so then, we texted for about 6 months and like hung out kind of intentionally with other people, but like together, if you will. So we weren't dating, but it was like we were in a group, like we went to a haunted house, together with a group of friends. It's like, well, I was intentionally trying to like hang out with her. So it was one of those like kind of interested in each other, but it was like a 6 month of development into like a relationship. Okay. Yeah.
A very Christian dating environment.
I see. So there wasn't like some kind of moment for you either, Nichole, where it was like game over, check please, I'm keeping this one.
No, it was a lot of little moments. I had never had a boyfriend or dated prior to AJ. AJ was my very first boyfriend. I was his very first girlfriend. So I always joked that dating felt like it was starting a brand new sport where I didn't know the rules. Like I didn't know what to wear, what to say, what any of the cues meant. And so I was so nervous to date. But AJ was so great in that season. I remember having this conversation after we had been dating for a moment of, hey, you know, sometimes Christian people date and they don't get married, and that's okay. And AJ goes, and sometimes they do date and they do get married. And that's going to be our story. I was like, okay. So it all
Wow.
fell in place, but definitely one of those when you know, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to fast forward a little bit. So you obviously you start dating, you get married. It's now you're a year in or so. It's 2012. You're fresh out of this church internship program, and now comes 6 years of waiting and praying for a child. That is not just a love story. That's a journey, right? So how did that season feel? Like what did it teach you about patience and partnership and holding on to that vision?
What a great question.
Yeah, that's a
I
great
love that.
question.
Yeah, I mean, we knew we wanted kind of kids right away. Yeah, I grew up in a big family. AJ grew up in a big family. And I remember telling AJ, like, I just need something small that loves me. So either we're going to have kids or I need a dog, like something quickly. And then it just kept not happening, you know, and it moved from, oh, okay, this is kind of funny to like, oh, let's go get some more important tests done and figure out why this isn't happening. And I remember, you know, of course, as young married people, as it often happens, people would ask, like, when do you want to have kids? And something shifted in both AJ and I's heart at really similar times, but very, very privately, even from one another, where later when we came and kind of compared notes, at the same time we had started telling other people when they asked, when do you want to have kids? We shifted from someday we'd love to someday and we need your prayer. Right? It's not going the way we thought it would go. We want, you know, we need other people to pray with us. And in that season, I mean, the amount of patience, a lot of disheartenment, like you're just sad about it because you can't fix it overnight. But the way that all unfolded for us was we had joined a Bible study with a handful of families that we knew and loved. And the first week of Bible study, at the very end, they asked, hey, is there any prayer requests? And we had never said out loud to anybody as plain as possible that we are having fertility trouble. And so that was the first space where we looked at people we knew and loved and we went, hey, we are having fertility struggles. We're trying to start a family and it's been years of this. And we do want people to partner with us in prayer. Will you pray with us? That Bible study went on for 10 weeks. And on the 10th week, it was our turn to share our testimony. And so as we were sharing our testimony, AJ got to share with the entire group that we were pregnant. We had just found out we were pregnant the week before. So we had these, you know, 4 or 5 different couples that had laid hands on us, prayed for us, prayed specifically and asked God straightforward exactly what we were looking for. And if I learned anything from that, it reminds me of the story from scripture that talks about the friends with the paralyzed friend. And as they crawled onto the roof and they pulled apart the roof and they dropped him down below to meet Jesus so he could be healed from being paralyzed. And Jesus said, it's by their faith that you are healed. And that really was our story and our testimony, and ultimately got naturally pregnant with our son.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I think out of that too, like we've never had a hard time like sacrificing for like what we ultimately wanted. And I think that season, like early on in our marriage, you know, formidable years as we were developing what we wanted our marriage to look like, and our family to look like, you know, it really did show. I mean, I would wait 6 years again for my son, you know, and so it really did reinforce, you know, and show this idea behind like, hey, the reward is always worth the wait. And you can take that in a lot of directions. But the reality is like, I would wait 6 more years if that's what it took for me to meet my son again. I 100% would. And that like long suffering and patience, yeah, it's a discipline that you can either get really good at or you can really hate the process of developing.
Do you remember that old, well, you guys are pretty young, but there used to be this old TV commercial for Heinz ketchup. And the whole premise was good things come to those who wait, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a picture of a bottle like this, and you're just waiting for that ketchup to drip
Yeah.
down onto the hamburger bun. That's how I feel like this journey must look like looking back at it,
Probably a
right?
glass.
So that's an incredible story.
Yeah. Segueing it into discipline and sacrifice. You said people used to ask you if you were broke because you weren't buying the shiny things. But that discipline is what gave you the margin to invest. Many families struggle with that same exact pressure. So, what are some practices that you two have in place to beat lifestyle creep? And what do you think that other couples could apply without feeling deprived?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it kind of always boiled back to not sacrificing what we want most for what we want now, because it can get really easy to get caught. I mean, there have totally been times where we've gotten caught up in like what we want now and then had to kind of undo some of that. And so that like practice of kind of keeping your eyes on what you want long term and then weighing the two of like, okay, I can have this now or I can have this later. Like, which one's more important or which one do I really care about more? Many times it becomes a lot easier to go, well, I kind of want the thing that's, down the road more than I want the thing now. And so it becomes a little bit easier to sacrifice that. And yeah, we chose to live smaller than our means. There were times where, we had something great. We had the house. Our first remodel was the house we wanted to live in. And it was beautiful. And we poured blood, sweat, and tears into it. And then brought our son home to it. And then we eventually sold that after really we'd only been able to live there for about a year and a half. And that wasn't even completed. I mean, we got to live there completed for probably like 3 months, because it was a live-in remodel. So completed, it was like 3 months worth of a completed house. And we chose to sacrifice that and moved into a duplex to house hack. And so we went from like 2,200 square feet to 800 square feet and had tenant, eventually friends is who these folks eventually became, sharing a wall with us. And it was one of those moments where, yeah, we kind of had to take a step back and it was hard. We went from our beautiful home, and I remember we moved into a friend's duplex and it was like dark, and we were grateful that we had this in between because we didn't have to sign a lease. And while we were looking for the next thing, we weren't locked into anything. And I'm forever grateful for that. They're still great friends to us. But I remember like having almost like, I wouldn't say it was like depression, but like it was like sad of like, man, like it was really sad to sell that home and then move into this house that, yeah, it doesn't have as much natural light. It's a lot smaller. We don't really have a backyard, like fill in the blank. Meanwhile, my son is here and he's learning to walk. But now kind of seeing the season we're in now, it's easy to look back and go, okay, that sacrifice was worth it. But it's sometimes in the fog of the sacrifice, it's hard to kind of sometimes see out of it. And so keeping your eyes on what the ultimate goal is can make it a lot easier to be okay with the sacrifice in that season.
Totally. I think too, like the other techniques is to tighten the belt on your finances in the season when you don't have to. That practice is like so good because then when the season comes where you're like, oh gosh, we actually really do have to lean out, then you're ready. You're like, I've been here before. This isn't anything. I don't need that coffee. I don't need to drive this car. I don't need to live in that house. When you practice that in the seasons when you don't have to. Yeah. That, and then always just a really transparent lifestyle with money. We definitely, when young people come to us and they say, what's your biggest money tip? It's like, you should share finances as a married couple. That right there means there's such incredible transparency. Everything's above board. There's no hidden money. And it makes something that could otherwise be a discrepancy in your marriage and in your investing, and makes it so clear. We know where all of our dollars go. And so it does mean in those seasons where we tighten the belt and we really hunker down, there's just so much transparency about it. But truly, it's like the greatest hack. If you've got a big family, let them think you're broke. It's good. They don't ask you to bring anything to meals. They don't call on you to chip in on anything. Maybe they're a little more generous. I think it's paid off tenfold with our family thinking we're poor.
I love that. Okay, those are very good tips. Okay, so now Wes is in the mix. He's been to job sites, events, seeing you solve problems. So you're not just building the equity, you're building a son. And how do you involve a 6-year-old in real estate so that he builds work ethic and gratitude, not
so
entitlement?
Good. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the biggest job, right? When I think about, once again, the name of your podcast, Our Family Invests, that's, maybe 10% about real estate or investing your dollars. It's 90% about what we do and invest in our family. So how do we get Wes involved in all of this? One, we almost bring him to everything. There's not a space in our world, whether it's a real estate meetup or a meeting with a contractor where Wes is not allowed. In fact, we try to infuse family into a lot of those spaces where that doesn't exist. He's the only 6-year-old at the real estate meetup, but he thinks it's the coolest thing. And we bring him up front and we introduce him to all the investors. So we can start to learn the language of real estate and understand too. We also put him to work. So Wes does gigs, he does jobs to earn dollars. And we talk about what that could look like with our rental properties, and other things like that. We tell him, hey, we're going to go speak to this contractor, or here's what a tenant means. These folks live in housing that we provide for them. So we got to make sure the housing is really good. So we just have open, honest conversations with him all the time. So much so that he actually speaks the language of real estate in funny places. Like in his kindergarten class, the teacher puts up a picture of a couple of homes close to each other, side by side by side. And she goes, and what is this? And the whole class yells house. And he yells multifamily real estate. And he told his teacher that AJ works for the FHA, the Federal Housing Authority.
That's amazing.
Anything else you'd add, AJ, and like how we integrate Wes into what we do?
Yeah, I mean, besides like bringing him along and like having discussions with him, yeah, we're trying to expose him to as many other people that are also doing the same thing, because he's not going to be able to learn everything he needs from just us. Like the community is equally as important to us for him so that he can be well-rounded and he can be intelligent. And I want him to learn how to look an adult in the eye and have a conversation. So whether it's at a restaurant and having him look at the waitress and give her, the order of what he wants instead of us doing it, or at a job site and having him in a hard hat and a, little vest so that he can feel like he's a part of the story and asking him questions. It's really about involving him kind of from front to back into our everyday life. We've never really like baby talked him. Like we've always just talked to him like a human being, because he's just a human being. He might just be in a smaller package. And I want him to grow up into, a confident man.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. You guys, I love all the things that you're doing to bring Wes along. We do exactly the same thing. Nico's at all the real estate meetups. He's at all the conferences. Like he's around that, whether he wants to be or not. And so I think that there is something to be said for just the exposure. And like half of his friends, their parents are all real estate investors. So we're putting him into those circles, whether he knows it or not,
You guys are actually, can I say something, Mike?
Please.
You guys are actually a big reason why that's so important to our family. We first met you in Maui. It was the first time I got to meet your sweet wife. But outside of that context, kind of, in this real estate investor community, the first time we really got to see you guys as a family was at a real estate conference.
Yeah.
And we came home from that real estate conference and AJ and I had a discussion and I said, just like Mike and Caroline, like I want to have Wes with us everywhere we go. And you guys were an example of that and really paved the way on, I don't have to worry on if this is a kid-friendly space. Yeah. It's a friendly space for us and we're family people. So let's bring our family. So thank you for being such a great representation of that.
Thank you. See, we just keep trying to encourage our friends to do the same thing. So then we have like a little pod and they all get to play together. And that's happened, which is great.
Yeah. And as far as the conferences go, no one's so heartless that they're going to kick out a kid. Not even Tarl.
I haven't seen it yet.
Because he has grace.
Exactly. Thank you. Hey, formal shout out to Grace Yarber. Thank you.
Yes. We love you. Hey family, real quick, if you'd rather watch your content, head over to Our Family Invests on YouTube. You'll find this episode and all our episodes over there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your takeaways in the comments. Now, back to the show.
So I love that you guys you're doing so much stuff, right? You've got the W-2s, you've got the projects going on. What does your playbook look like and how do you divide roles? How do you find deals? How do you define roles, and share that with us if you don't mind?
Yeah. I think that was something that we kind of early on kind of figured out like where our strengths were. Nichole is very people oriented. And so something she's phenomenal at is talking to people. And so sitting across from somebody and having a conversation and figuring out like, what are the problems you're trying to overcome? Like, what are the hurdles that maybe we can help solve? Ultimately, like the people are the most important part of this business, whether it's people we work with or people we're trying to buy a house from or people we're selling to, like it all boils back to people. A house is just a product. And so for us, the defined roles have kind of naturally found themselves where they're at. Where for me, I'm good with numbers. I'm good with, managing a process and building out a system. And so I very much kind of lend myself towards that side of the business, whether it's, putting together rehab estimates or, making sure that a contractor is keeping timelines on schedule or things like that. And Nichole is very much leaned into the people side of the business, and it's taking care of the neighbors while we have a project going, or meeting with a potential home seller or selling the home. Like all of that side of the business is something she's really good at. And so we've kind of naturally, found ourselves in these lanes. We never had a defined conversation of here's your job, here's my job, but we just kind of understood each other's strengths and then just kind of let the other person move into that lane and just trusted what they were going to do.
Yeah, and it continues to ebb and flow too. It changes over time, much like it probably does even for a lot of married couples at home. Like different seasons call for different responsibilities and different strengths. And one of the ways we've identified those is when it's a rub for us. Like AJ and I will sit down. I wish we did it more frequently. We should do it once a week, but we'll sit down and we'll go, what do you think I should be doing right now? And it's wild, the to-do list I keep in my brain for AJ. I'm like, AJ needs to do this, he needs to do this, he needs to do this. But yet I can totally forget all of the important things I was really tasked to do. So that one simple question on a really logistical level means that about once a week-ish or a couple times a month, we're hearing from the other person on all the things they think we should be accomplishing. And we make that a working meeting, right? I'm like, oh yeah, you were supposed to text your mom. I think that permit needs to be filed. These things that I don't want to do. I'm not good at it, but I kind of keep track in my mind. And same, he's like, hey, did you ever reach out to that neighbor after we stole their water during that, 2-month timeline?
Your dad stole their water.
Yeah. Did you ever talk to them? And so that's really helpful. It's just those transparent conversations frequently of checking in with one another and then being willing to pivot and make a change when it feels like you're driving upstream with all of your tasks, right? Checking in with your partner and being like, is this easier for you? Is it easier for you to go get the tabs for my car? Because it's taken me 3 years. So if you could do that, that'd be great.
I remember listening to a podcast with Brandon at one point, and he was talking about it's heavy or hard. And it's it can be hard, but it might feel light. Like the job is it's a hard task, but you're good at it. So it's light. Or it's this might be a really easy task, but it feels heavy to accomplish. I still think about that with tasks where I'm like, oh, this is an easy task, but it feels like a heavy to do, and vice versa. And kind of handing tasks back and forth. Was hey, I can't necessarily take care of this for if it's an easy thing. Can you do it? And same backwards, where it's oh, I can do that. That's really easy for me, even though it's not a hard task. Maybe it was a heavier task for her. So that I think to put words to it, that has been kind of how I've viewed it, is that.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. You may be really talented at it, but hate it. So it's probably better for the other person to jump in who's mediocre at it. I'm curious, if you two were starting fresh right now, what would be your first 3 moves towards financial freedom?
Ooh.
That's a great question.
Yeah. I bet we would buy a stinky duplex.
Yep.
On market, you can smell the house from the photo kind of situation. We would renovate it ourselves. We'd move into one unit and we'd rent out the other. I think that would on a small scale for the first 3 steps, that would be what it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Set for Life by Scott Trench, I feel kind of encompasses how I would view our first couple moves. And it would be first getting into an occupation that I can control the amount of income I make, because if I can increase what I'm making, that'll give me more margin to invest. So I'd do that. I'd simultaneously try to cut expenses. What are the things that are not my indiscretionary spending I can just get rid of? Where can I save money? So I've increased the amount of money I have access to monthly, and simultaneously using that to buy the duplex, triplex, fourplex, where I could put low money down, buy it, live in a unit, renovate it, increase the value, to then use that to continue to purchase. Those 3 things: increase income, reduce expenses, buy a duplex. That would be the first 3 moves for me.
So I hang out with that guy.
Yep.
Man, that's
great.
good.
Love
I need
it.
one of those. Guys, it seems like every successful entrepreneur goes through some kind of a mindset shift to get to where they are. What was that for you, and what limiting beliefs did you have to let go of to get to where you are right now?
I've got one that comes to mind. I think the mindset shift ultimately came out in what we call our family values. So Frandanisas have family values. Frandanisas do hard things. Frandanisas have tough conversations, Frandanisas do the right thing, and Frandanisas have fun. And those 4 values started with just one, which was Frandanisas do hard things. We had this season where AJ really had this heartbeat for investing, and I wasn't on board yet. And of course, much like many other real estate investors, he started listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast. It's the gateway drug to investing. And he kept asking me, you should listen to this. You should listen to this. And I just resisted. I wasn't about real estate. It sounded too risky. I liked what I was doing. And then there was one about leadership. And he's like, hey, maybe you'll like this one. It's about leadership. And I could really get on that. So I started listening to it and I never turned it off. Now suddenly we were aligned and on the same page. But we just didn't know what had to happen next. The question that kept coming up is, where are we going to get the money to do this investing? And in that season, we had a lot of hard things going on. My parents separated and divorced. AJ's parents separated, all while we were bringing our son home, all while we were in this live-in remodel. And so we kept having to come face to face with hard things. And then came the saying, Frandanisas do hard things. And the heartbeat behind that was that you can do hard stuff. You just have to do it one step at a time. So do the next right thing. So the limiting belief for us was, wow, that sounds so big, so far away. How are we ever going to get enough money to do that? And the breakthrough was, well, Frandanisas do hard things, which means doing the next right thing. So where do we have money now? Well, probably in this nice, big, beautiful live-in remodel we just finished. We should figure out how much it's worth. All right, well, now we know how much it's worth. What if we sold it? Well, let's call a real estate agent, right? So just doing these tiny little baby steps to discover the next thing you need to do, which really does clear out the fog on the step after that and the step after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a limiting belief that I would say, at least kind of recently, we've kind of journeyed through and realized that maybe was a limiting belief was still that lack of money, where it's like, oh, we want to keep buying things, we want to keep doing this, but it's like, well, we can't keep selling and buying another home. Like, that's not an effective strategy for long term. Like, we moved, I think, what did we say, 11 times in 12 years, I think is what, like, we'd moved so many times and it was like, we can't keep doing that. That model doesn't work. But we'd always used our own money and we would try to multiply, like, okay, one house into 2 units, or, you know, okay, we're going to remodel this house. And so we'd always try to kind of snowball what we had purchased already. And so we're using hard money for the first time. It's like, why haven't we used hard money before? Like, this is like, it felt scary. And I think that was kind of the like limiting moment of like, oh, like, you always hear stories about people who like, it doesn't go great. It's like, you know what? Like, it costs something, but it's effectively been able to help us buy and remodel something that we didn't have the money to just do ourselves with what we had available. And so I think for me, it was that moment. And that was this year of like, okay, using other people's money. And it seems silly and so basic because you hear everybody who invests on a high level talk about using other people's money. I've always thought of that as like, other people's money, I'm going to use the bank's money, or I'm going to use, you know, traditional financing. And right, it's like, oh, I'm leveraging what I have. It's like, well, there's other people that want to invest, and those sometimes are hard money, sometimes are private money. And so that has been something that I've actually been, I'm really happy that we used hard money for the first time, because it's kind of opened up the door to what could be possible. So at least for myself, I don't know if that's the same for you.
That's good. That's why he does all the money stuff. I'm like, I forgot we were using other people's money. That's good to know.
So on this entrepreneurship journey, what is something you wish you knew before you got started? Is there anything that could have helped you?
That's a great question.
I think for me, the time between learning and action. We've learned more from taking action than we ever did from the books we cracked open. And by we, AJ cracked open. But all that to be said, like, there was so much good stuff that came out of that. I'm so grateful he did, because we got to walk into action, you know, seasons with a lot more confidence. But if from an entrepreneurial mindset, like, it's okay to ready, fire, aim sometimes, right? And that's tough, especially when you're maybe, say, a perfectionist or really like things to be done correctly the first time, right? That can be a big challenge. Whereas somebody who's a little bit, you know, more like me, I'm a lot more creative and I talk a lot about what I want to do, but maybe don't take action like somebody who is a perfectionist would. So marrying those skills together, taking action faster, learning while you're on the road to that journey, and adjusting as you need to be successful, I think is the thing I wish, you know, we would have caught before we jumped in.
Yeah, we're actually, that brings up something that we were talking about the other night on the way to a meetup. You know, we have a friend, Jan, and we were talking about how he's really good at like getting something on paper and then making it better later, or having his team make it better later. I was like, man, I wish I was better at that. Like, I want to do that because, yeah, I am very much hey, let's make this really good when we do it. It's like, yeah, but many times it's better to just get a dart on the dartboard and then have your team pick it up, or you later pick it up and then move it to the bullseye. It doesn't have to be a bullseye when you throw it. And so, yeah, I think if I knew that earlier, I think that would definitely help, because moving forward like that, I want to be more like that. I want to at least get something moving and then improve it later.
I appreciate that visual. That's great. One of the things that we love about your story and your lives are rich because it's not just about flips and rehab. Like AJ, you became a licensed pilot. Nichole, you grew up on stage theater, and now you definitely bring that presence onto the stage, real estate conferences, public speaking. So how do these passions shape how you define a life well lived?
I mean, I think at least for myself, like I wanted to eventually become a pilot for commercial purposes. I wanted that to be my job when I was in high school, and then realized that, I don't know if I necessarily actually want to do that as an occupation. I kind of just want to fly for fun. And then the dollars invested into it didn't necessarily feel like it was a great investment of money at the time. And something that Nichole has taught me and, has said quite a bit is like this return on joy. She's like, yeah, but it's not going to get any cheaper. You're not going to get any younger. It's not going to get any easier. So like, why don't you just do it? And then you'll have your license. And so having her support in that, and having the freedom to be able to spend, I mean, it's not hard, but it's not easy either to do that. There's a lot of studying, there's a lot of book knowledge you have to know on top of just learning how to fly a plane. And so like taking the discipline and the skills to put towards that, and having the support from her to be able to, hey, I need to tuck away because this is going to take me 3 hours to chart this flight path. Meanwhile, we have a 2-year-old son. Like that whole, like, it would have been really challenging without her support. And so, yeah, that process, I learned quite a bit in that process of, okay, maybe it doesn't fiscally bring back dollars, but what it does do is it teaches us lessons and it creates a moment of joy. We can't just work our entire life. We have to have those joyful moments or those joyful things that kind of continue to give us that energy in the life to want to keep working.
Yeah, that word return on joy is very, very frequent in our home and in our community and in our lifestyle, because ROI, right? Return on investment. My money poured in, I get that. That makes sense to me. But if it costs you your well-being, if it costs you your mental health, if it costs you your marriage, I guarantee you there's no ROI that's worth it.
Yeah.
And so for us, return on joy, there has to be a balance of return on joy. Where you have a life outside of all of this, and at the end of the day, for us, it's about Jesus. It is about glorifying who God is, like doing anything and everything we can to honor him in all that we do for his glory and for our good, and to show other people and introduce them to Jesus too. And so if we never bought another house, if we never closed on another property, never had another tenant, I can confidently say that life is well lived because of what's at the center of it, which is our belief that Jesus loves us, knows us, cares about us, and is really never about real estate for me. Nothing is ever about real estate for me. Love houses. They're pretty cool. I'd like to live in a big one day. But it is always, always, always about people and sharing the ministry of Jesus.
Wow.
Return on joy. I love that.
I love that
We may
too.
have to coin that phrase.
I love a lot of
going.
things that I've heard from you guys today. Really inspirational. And every time that I feel like I have a conversation with you guys, I always walk away feeling so much better. And I've heard you say something, AJ, where legacy is not something that you leave, it's something you live. And so if Wes listens to this episode 10 years from now, what is one thing that you hope that he takes away, some message about family, faith, money?
Man, I think about that question. I feel like every morning when my eyes open up of like, okay, how am I going to help my son develop into the man that I know he can be and is called to be? And if I had to sum it up into like a single sentence, and maybe it's a run-on sentence, but a single sentence, it would be this: if I'm not here to help lead you, trust in God first, love your wife well, lead her and serve her, and make sure that the legacy that you leave for your children is one that can be replicated. I think if I could sum it up, it would be that.
No pressure,
Wow.
Wes.
Yeah. Yikes. All right, guys. Well, let's start landing the plane here because I feel like I'm just squeezing so much out of you guys and you are just delivering with so much. But I want to end this by asking you the same 4 questions that we ask everyone that comes on the show. And starting with, who are 3 people, books, or places that inspire you?
And it can be a combination.
I love it.
You first.
Oh man, what a bummer. I knew he was going to say that. AJ's the reader in our family, so you can cover the books. 3 people that really inspire me. I think I have to say it. As much as I feel like it's probably on a lot of people's lists, you guys, you're dear friends with them, but the Turners, Brandon and Heather Turner, their faith-forward approach to how they lead what they do and their ability and willingness to open up that door to show a lot of other people what that could look like is huge. Marriage is really, really fun. And it's so much more important than anything we'll ever invest in. So I think those guys hit the top of the list for me and folks that I find really inspirational in our walk and our journey with what we got going on.
Yeah. And then I think if I had to pick a place, it's kind of like inspiring for me. It's going to be the woods. I love hunting. I love being out in the woods. I love being in nature. I love looking at the stars in a place where there's not a lot of light pollution and you can see the Milky Way. I love that. I think it really reinforces the size that I am in the grand scheme of things, and the like stillness and the quiet of it. Yeah, it just brings my mind and my soul so much clarity and gives me an opportunity to like really listen to what the Lord has to say, which is nice because we live in such a fast-paced world and society where everything's grabbing for our attention. It's nice to take a step back from that and have the capacity and the ears to be able to kind of hear a little bit better. So for me, the woods is like, we love camping. I love hunting. Like it's a really special place for me. And then a book, I don't know. I've read a lot of books, and then, you could take it from business, you could take it real estate. But one that I just recently listened to that I think like I thought a lot about is a C.S. Lewis book. It's the Screw Tape Letters. And it's one I hadn't picked up in a long time, but I listened to it as I was kind of in and out of the woods hunting. And it was a very interesting book because it kind of reshaped how I thought about certain things, whether it was current events within our world or even my own internal dialogue that I have with myself. And it kind of reshaped a little bit of that for me. So that was a good reminder. It is very much a faith-based book, but it was one that I'll probably be reflecting on for a little while. So maybe that's not one you've heard on the podcast before because it has nothing to do with business or real estate. But as a personal book, it was definitely worth re-listening to.
Nice. Well, that's a book I've never read. And I've heard about it a million times. And so I should definitely put it on my list. My next question, you kind of probably already answered it, AJ. So I'm going to direct this one more towards Nichole. How do you find peace?
I want to answer that as thoughtfully as I can, because I think that peace, as much as I think a lot of people strive to find it, kind of just like the way you shaped that question. How do you find it? Right. And I honestly think that peace is something you meet, right? Maybe you discover it by accident or on purpose, but it's a lot more of an intentional effort. I don't think you're going to stumble across peace. So for me personally, how I find peace in this season, every morning we wake up before the sun and our sun, and we read our Bibles. We start the day in scripture as a method to put on the full armor of God, which what that means for somebody who maybe, isn't in scripture or didn't grow up in a space where that type of language is used, is waking up and reading scripture for the purpose of being renewed in my belief every single day that I was a handpicked child of God and that everything I come across is overcomable in my day and that God will never leave or forsake me. So with that, we just spend some time in scripture. We reflect it. We read the same scripture every day with each other. And that really puts us on the same page. And we find a lot of peace in that throughout our day to help guide us through all of the fun of life, from easy things like, a hiccup with Wes, not getting along with his best buddy, all the way to maybe some of the more complicated things that we're facing as a culture.
Yeah. That's so great. If you could go back to high school AJ and high school Nichole, not too long ago, what's one piece of advice you would whisper to them?
I know what mine would be.
Do you?
Yeah. I already said it today on the podcast.
Go for it.
Okay. Sometimes Christian people date and do get married. I think
that.
Yeah, I think that would be the piece of advice. And really, what does that really mean for us? If I got to talk to high school Nichole, it would be like, Nichole, you are worthy of being loved by somebody that you are inspired by. And you should say yes to that opportunity without worry or fear that you're going to get left behind. Because not only will it leave a legacy, but you're also going to enjoy it the entire time.
I think I would tell my high school self, like ninth grade, it's okay to not fit in. Friend groups, society, high school, what doesn't matter where you're at. There's always going to be groups of people, and there's always going to be segmentation between people who have similarities. And that's okay. And it's also okay if you don't 100% fit into any of those. Our story looks maybe a little bit different than a lot of people's. How we choose to spend our money, how we choose to spend our time doesn't always align with other people's, and that's okay. That's how we choose to find our own niche and what's important to us. And back in high school, I remember being entering into ninth grade going like, okay, where do I fit in? Who's my friend group? Like trying to kind of find my way. Like I was confident in who I was as a person, but it was like, what's my identity? I play sports, but I'm definitely not as athletic as him. Like that, like sifting through of like trying to find your way in the world. And I think that that's still true even as adults, as we try to find where our footing is, who our peers are, who are the people we look up to. And I think that like telling myself that earlier in the journey probably could have saved me some heartache. It's okay to not fit in. That's all right. Be authentic to yourself, and eventually you will find your place.
It's good.
I think you should go and talk to high schools.
I agree.
All right, guys, we'll get you out of here on this, but we like to end the show by saying we learn, we share, we grow. What is one thing that you've learned recently that just kind of made you stop and breathe and see life a little differently?
There's this verse in Proverbs that says something along, I'm going to paraphrase it because I'll butcher it otherwise, but essentially says that a stable without an ox is always clean, but the abundance from the crop comes from the ox himself. And this concept of sometimes we want the outcome. I want all the crop. I want to harvest all the crops, but I don't want to clean the stall, right? And what that means in the work we do, it's like, well, gosh, I want all the real estate properties, but I got to go find the sellers, and we got to manage the contractors, and we got to find the money, and we got to do the hard work that makes the stall a little dirty, right? And so was thinking about, that's something I've learned recently, is like, I can't shake my fist at the work that eventually creates the outcome I'm looking for. I have to have gratitude for the little stuff that feels dirty because it gives us the big outcome later.
I think for me, the learn is actually a real estate tactic. It's something that I heard somebody talk about the other night at a meetup that I thought was very intriguing. This was a gentleman who was a lot younger than I was. I think I'm like 10 years older than him. And he was talking about partnering with owners of land and allowing the land to help them build what they're trying to build, whether it's apartments, townhomes, homes for sale, whatever it was. And they partnered with them in such a way that the land became a down payment, right? These are landowners that own this land free and clear. So they partnered with them. That became like an equity position for them. And then they would build what they were trying to build, and they would refinance it. And then both would get cash flow, and it would reduce the expense that the previous landowner had. That tactic out was very interesting to me. It was something I hadn't necessarily thought of, but it's one that I mentally jotted down because at some point it's probably going to be something we could use in the journey, right? And this is a kid, like I said, he's like 10 years younger than me. He was a very intelligent kid, and that was that was probably something that I learned recently, and that was just a couple days ago.
Thank you both so much for just sharing with us, taking the time. You guys are amazing. Drop so much goodness. If our audience wants to connect with you, where would the best place for that to be?
Yep. Instagram's probably the best place to keep up with us and our story. And we love talking to folks, answering their questions, helping them dream up what they've got going on, sharing our learnings, along the way. We really do. So I am at Nichole Frandanisa.
Yep. I'm at Anthony Fran
on Instagram.
Yeah.
Guys, this was so much fun. We really appreciate you both coming on. Awesome conversation. We love you guys. Have a great day.
You're the best.
Much. We love you guys.
We're getting on a plane right now to come see you.
Please do.
Cancel everything.
Thanks for being part of the family today. If you want a closer look at our journey through real life, business, and all the wild adventures, follow us on Instagram at Our Family Invest. And for free resources to help you on your own path, head to ourfamilyinvest.com.
If you like this episode, send it to a friend. And if you're feeling extra generous, drop us a quick review. It really helps us grow this community. Thank you so much for being part of our family today. We really, truly appreciate you.